Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Aaron Dykes. This is the InfoWars Nightly News. It is Thursday, April 5th, 2012. Coming up tonight, we have Sheriff Richard Mack to discuss the ongoing attacks against the Second Amendment, his new book, The Magic of Gun Control, and a whole lot more. He'll join us later, and we'll take a glimpse into just a few of the entries for our Become an InfoWars Reporter contest. That's all coming up. Stay tuned. But first, the news. The moves for authoritarian control by the global warming globalists are becoming more transparent by the day. We have ongoing fallout over Professor Norgaard, who recently released her paper and attended this conference saying that global warming deniers, climate change deniers should be, quote, treated. That presumably refers to some kind of drugged treatment. And so we've had everything in the fallout of that, from banning our videos on YouTube. You heard Alex ranting about that yesterday on this show, today on the radio show, to attacking people like Rush Limbaugh and anyone else who isn't willing to toe this climate change line, which they admit is just for larger global control. Now they're scrubbing much of Professor Norgaard's work, deleting her papers. They're revising it, taking out that keyword treat, the deniers. And so now we have uncovered how Professor Norgaard urged Obama to, quote, ignore democracy and public opinion, and how she also endorsed none other than John P. Holdren, chief eco-science eugenicist in the White House and science advisor to the president. The climate change professor at the center of the latest scandal over her assertion that global warming skeptics were akin to racists and should be, quote, treated for having psychiatric disorder, wrote in a letter in which she praised Obama for hiring eugenicist John P. Holdren as his chief science advisor, while urging Obama to ignore public opinion and disregard democracy and in favor of endorsing draconian climate change mandates. And we have her actual paper there. You could see the quotes. She does say that while democracy is a nice concept, things are too dire with climate change, and we just have to do what must be done. And it's no wonder she praises John P. Holdren, because in eco-science and in all his other writings for 30-plus years, he says the very same thing, that to enforce the global society they want to set up, to enforce the population reduction, mandatory population reduction, they will need a planetary regime. It's all in eco-science. We've covered the quotes at length, and here you have other people down the chain like Professor Norgaard regurgitating those calls for just absolute authoritarianism. And of course, they all admit it's to build a global government. You've seen the new video as well, calling this the Anthropocene age, the age of man changing Earth. Of course, the Greenies made this video where they kind of spoof the idea of blowing up by pushing a red button the unbelievers and those who weren't willing to commit to reducing their, quote, carbon footprint, to becoming more green. And all this is just coming undone as we see in more and more. They just want to take over society and also have an excuse to kill. Another form of authoritarianism coming into view. The IRS, new bill would suspend passport rights for delinquent taxpayers. Another method of cracking down on travel, trying to restrict that as a known right, trying to sell travel as a privilege, trying to sell the idea that you have to get groped or radiated at the airport just to go somewhere. So this new bill is from Senator Barbara Boxer, someone familiar to the avenues and halls of tyranny. She's introduced Senate Bill 1813 to reauthorize federal aid highway and highway safety construction programs and for other purposes. And of course, buried in there is moving ahead for progress in the 21st Century Act, or MAP 21, which would allow the revocation or denial of a passport for anyone with unpaid taxes or tax delinquencies, but not if you're a member of the Obama administration, whether you're Geithner or whether you're the dozen or so others who are known tax cheats. Anyway, the BBC News reports that Chinese websites were defaced by Anonymous in an attack that was clearly in retaliation to the shutdown of a number of websites over the supposed internet coup that happened in China. Almost 500 websites defaced by the anonymous sock puppet group. No way to really know who's behind that. Could be white hats, could be people in other government factions, could be ways to kind of corner China in the larger geopolitical struggle. But it's interesting nonetheless. Anonymous urged people to stage their own protests against the Chinese regime and put a message on the site that read in part, "Dear Chinese government, you're not infallible. Today websites are hacked. Tomorrow it will be your vile regime that will fall." Now, we know about the infiltration of spies in the U.S. government, of course, in many other governments as well. Over the years, it's classically part of the Cold War, the Soviet infiltration, and, of course, the globalists in our own government who traded secrets. One of the big cases there came out of the secret society at Cambridge, the Cambridge Apostles, the same secret society Aldous Huxley and Lord Bertrand Russell were members of. You had Kim Philby there, the MI6 intelligence extraordinaire, and 5 other people accused of handing spy secrets to Russia. That was back then. You've also got the Chinese who admittedly traded for top secret information on nuclear and other materials with the Clinton administration. You've got the Israeli spy ring penetration that was exposed in part after 9/11. Well, now the Russians are back. It's been exposed since 2010 that indeed a spy ring from Russia got well within the Obama administration at the highest levels. And even Vladimir Putin went on Larry King Live at the time and admitted this was going on, but basically said, it's no big deal. Yeah, we were up in your stuff, but it's not that important. We weren't going to do anything. It was kind of just a case backup plan. Anyway, we put together a package on that, laying out the depths of what may well be an emerging new Cold War as geopolitical tensions with Russia are ongoing. Don't forget, they have menaced Russia over and over and threatened to start World War III, and it's hardly over yet. Let's go to that package right now.
A spy ring has once again infiltrated the highest and most secure levels of our government. Anna Chapman was revealed in 2010 to be a Russian spy. But only now do we know that the FBI agents exposed her because they feared she was getting dangerously close and under the covers with a high-ranking Obama official. But they would not reveal who the official was. However, it later emerged that not the bombshell Anna Chapman, but another member of the Russian spy ring had reached the inner circle of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's entourage. Foreign spies were admittedly involved deep inside the inner workings of U.S. foreign policy. Putin played it down and said they were doing no harm. But is it a sign that a new Cold War is emerging? Or are we trapped in some kind of James Bond film? Tabloids even speculated why Hillary started dressing like a Bond villain. And now KGB boss Vladimir Putin, back in power, recently unveiled a new psychotronic weapon that attacks the central nervous system and turns humans into zombies. Putin said that such high-tech weapons systems will be comparable in effect to nuclear weapons, but will be more acceptable in terms of political and military ideology. And Russian Defense Minister Anatoly Sertikov added, the development of weaponry systems based on new physics principles, direct energy weapons, geophysical weapons, wave energy weapons, genetic weapons, psychotronic weapons, and so on, is part of the state arms procurement program for 2011 to 2020. We know that similar technology has already been tapped by DARPA. It was revealed in the wake of the Arab Spring and the contested Russian election that the U.S. had indeed intervened to tie Putin's hands on the grand chessboard. The conflict in South Ossetia, pitting western-backed Georgia against Russia, later proved to be an attempt by Vice President Dick Cheney to menace Russia into World War III, putting us once again on the brink. Zygmunt Brzezinski, key advisor under President Carter and shadow advisor under alleged President Obama, has long envisioned the plan to encircle Russia and compete for territory in the Great Game.
And so what a fascinating package, all the crazy stuff going on between the Russian and U.S. governments, all the clear behind the scenes collaboration, and what really are they building up to? And of course, did the sexy spy Anna Chapman get inside the Obama administration? Did she know too much? Did she get too close to the official? Or was it Cynthia Murphy so close to Hillary Clinton? Did Hillary know who she was already and cooperate with her anyway? Or was this an exposure of even more vital national intelligence? Of course, it's the globalists at the CFR, at the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg level that includes Hillary and many others who are already so much of a threat to this country. But getting Russia involved is even crazier. But getting back into the globalist authoritarian regime under the guise of saving the environment, under the guise of leading society in this rational way, we have 83-year-old woman denied health care over her carbon footprint. And here we have the perfect mix of that case for killing granny with the death panels meeting the global warming alarmism in the Paul Joseph Watson article, as 83-year-old Avril Mulhani complained about a doctor and was then told that the practice had a problem with her green traveling issues and ordered her to re-register with another practice. The only problem was her travel route was only 2 miles. So how does that amount to a green carbon footprint issue? Well, it's really just if you complain about your doctor or the service or in any way, or the socialist Medicare system you're under, then you're going to be punished while the system targets people for their age, for their disabilities, for the projected costs of caring for them, and decides your life just isn't worth it. And besides, with this larger carbon problem, really no one's life is worth it. So everyone look out, and it's just more of a sign of the times. Boy, those people really got it right who did the spoof of Planned Grandparenthood. You really see where this thing is going. First, they sold us on Planned Parenthood. Now they sell us on killing babies up to age 3. And then now it's death panels and how we have to get rid of grannies and how it's not worth it to care for them because they have to travel 2 miles to the doctor's office. That's in the UK. And unfortunately, it appears to be headed for the U.S. if they don't overturn Obamacare. Meanwhile, genetically modified stuff is just running rampant, going crazy. We've got the Natural News report from writer Jonathan Benson, Medical Madness. Researchers develop genetically engineered farm goats. That's farm with a PH as in pharmaceuticals that produce vaccines and milk. Of course, this isn't the first time you've heard of this. If you've been following InfoWars, they also have pharmaceutical GMO crops they're developing and a whole lot more. And so instead of backing off of vaccines when they're proved dangerous, or backing off of GMO organisms when they're proved dangerous and that they're causing long-term sterility, third-generation sterility, organ failure, deformed babies, and more, let's combine the two. Let's amplify it. Let's magnify it. Let's fortify research and funding for GMOs for these vaccine crops, all while ignoring the fact that natural raw milk from mammals, including goats, cows, and more, have very good immunity properties already built into them. They don't even need to mess with goats. They already produce a great product that humans can benefit from directly, as well as the other mammals involved. But no, they want to rewrite the genetic code, make sure they have a patent over life, and try to control you through it, and try to force you to take this junk. Well, consumers may not be taking it. There has been a major victory, and I agree with some of the commenters. The GMO overlords will probably still try to get this stuff on the market, sneak it in various ways, but a major victory in Canada coming out this week as consumer rejection kills the GM EnviroPig as farmers feared pork market collapse. Now, you've got the Canadian organization Ontario Pork, you've got the University of Guelph and other entities who really designed this EnviroPig. They were going to modify something in the saliva that caused it to produce less phosphorus because the manure and the phosphorus content in pig manure is very environmentally damaging, and so they were going to save the earth by putting GM meat on the market for human consumption. And so this EnviroPig was going to be the first meat for human consumption likely to be approved on the market, but instead it was totally rejected. Why? Because consumers in Canada called and complained and threatened and told them they weren't going to buy this GM pork. And they got the message. The pork market in Canada feared that people would avoid the entire swarm, whether it was GM pork or just regular pork, because there's no labeling on GMOs, because there's a big backlash, and they are well aware that the public does not want this stuff. There's a press conference linked in the article I wrote up on Infowars.com, also great reporting at activistpost.com, where the Canadian Biotech Action Network describes repeatedly how it was consumer demand that got this project killed, and so the university lost the funding. They put this project on freeze, and they're literally going to freeze these specimens, the semen for these specimens, to use in the future because they believe it'll later be acceptable. But for now, it's a partial victory for those who have been opposing GM, and for now, keeping genetically modified meat out of the human market. Dr. Cecil Forsberg, one of the co-inventors of the EnviroPig, wrote an article or commented in the New York Times complaining that when the pig was first created in 1999, I had the feeling in 7 or 8 or 9 years that the transgenic animals would probably be acceptable, but I was wrong. It's time to stop the program until the rest of the world catches up. And it is going to catch up. They vow they'll be back, and they're not done with the GMO battle, the long-term war that is, but we have a partial victory in this battle. And what's at stake? You heard the reports from a couple weeks ago in The Atlantic of how engineering the human body could combat climate change. There's that climate change excuse again, and how they're going to change our own DNA, give us cat-like eyes so we don't have to have lighting, how they're going to change our inclinations toward meat to make us more vegan-like, and so we don't have the enjoyment of meat and we won't be allowed to eat meat, and how they're going to bioengineer us while feeding us with all this genetically modified food crops, whether it's animals, plants, or a cross in between. And it's just disgusting how much they think they have a right to change life on Earth in the name of fighting global warming, a total hoax. It's all for authoritarianism. We've covered this at length at InfoWars, but it's all in your face today and this week and in the recent news. Let's just play part of the package I did with Alex last July in 2011 on this growing problem of the genetic Armageddon we are facing if we don't fight this GM issue and rein it in. Let's go to it right now.
Biofarming, aiding scientists in cutting-edge research.
PPL Therapeutics is working on a solution. They want to clone pigs whose organs can be transplanted into people.
Cloned and genetically modified cows that can produce milk containing the same health properties as human breast milk.
These glow-in-the-dark cats could help develop treatments for diseases, for animals and for humans.
Yes, you did hear that correctly. He has put a spider gene into a goat.
Transgenic fish. So the fish actually have what appear to be six-pack abs that we see in humans.
My friends, I am here to warn you. I am here to alert you to the greatest threat to our species and our civilization on this planet. Humanity in just the last 100 years has increased its technological and scientific knowledge thousands and thousands of times what it was. But we are still the same species that we were, capable of magnificent heights, but also of horrifying lows. I want to talk to you about the greatest threat to human civilization and society today. Already irrevocably changing the genetic code of the biospheres on this planet, and that is genetic engineering. Now, I love science and technology. I know that it's a neutral thing and that man can use it for good or bad. But that said, the controllers and engineers of our society for more than 100 years have believed that if they can discover the secrets of life, DNA, that they will have the keys to immortality. And now you see all the different news articles where they openly brag about this, and the elite says, we don't need a giant population anymore to run our technological systems. We're now phasing into robotics, where the military's aircraft will be drone, where combat robots will do the fighting, where manufacturing will be carried on and executed by non-biological systems. So there is an arms race going on and a technological race going on right now dealing with genetic engineering. And recently, the FDA has put into effect new policies that allow genetic engineering companies, predominantly big agri, to put on the market any GMO organism they wish without even consulting the public. Now, when you look at this, it's not just GMO grass that takes less water. It's not just GMO tomatoes that last longer on the shelf.
And so it's just amazing. If you didn't see that video before, we're going to play it in its entirety at the break. But they're just wildly reckless on purpose, playing with the genetic code of life, opening that Pandora's box, all while telling you you don't have a right to live your natural life because they want that authoritarian control over you, telling you you have to change your lifestyle because of global warming, while they threaten to open up the whole works and destroy Earth or significantly modify it. It's just crazy. Anyway, today's daily quote also hinges on the way these elitists, these globalists, these environmentalists posing as environmentalists who really could care less about our environment, love to control life. You've heard about Eric Pianka. Here he is again. But there's a solution that's theoretically possible. I call it the Johnny Anti-Appleseed solution. Instead of being cursed with our fertility, I would bless us with infertility. Now, this could happen because male sperm counts are falling because of plastics and the estrogen mimickers naturally. And he goes on to say, we need to sterilize everybody on the earth. The audience laughs, of course. We need to sterilize everybody on the earth and make the antidote freely available to anyone who's willing to work for it. That's Eric Pianka, the evolutionary ecology author, the professor here in town at UT. And it's just disgusting. They want to totally control your entire life cycle. If you don't see that by now, I urge you to research. Go back to our old videos.